Welcome and happy Thursday. I'm just trying to adjust my phone here. Here we go. Okay, awesome. So, how's everyone doing? I can't believe it's the last day of October already, and tomorrow is November. Okay, so this was the live that we did over on Patreon for this month. And then if you've been following along on this live series that I'm doing here on YouTube, the vertical live series, we had done this 2 weeks ago, and then we did this one last week, keeping it very autumn, very fall themed. And today I would like to do some autumn themed squash or pumpkins, just because it's the season. Hi, Jen. Hi, Glorimar. Okay, so let me talk about what I'm using really quickly, and then we can get right into it. This whole series is inspired to encourage you guys to sit down, take time for yourselves, and just do a little bit of painting, whether it's with me or watching this as the replay after. So I'm going to go ahead and use my Bao Hong watercolor paper that I have here. And I think I'm going to keep this booklet for our little sessions like this. For our paints, I'm using my Daleroni set of watercolors. And as I use the paints, I'll let you guys know which ones I'm using. I've got water handy on the side. And I'm going to keep it on this side so that the shadows don't get on it. And then last but not least, for brushes, because this is a small sheet, I'm going to be using the Princeton Velvet Touch number 4 and then the Princeton Heritage number 3, just for tinier details. Hi, Isabel from Barcelona. I'm actually going to be coming to Barcelona next year before the Tuscany Watercolor Retreat. And I'm excited to come to your country and visit Barcelona. So much art inspiration over there. Okay, so without further ado, because this is supposed to be 15-minute sessions for y'all, let's get to mixing some paint. So let's maybe do 3 little squash style pumpkins or what have you. And for the first one, I'm going to make it green, yellow ochre. I don't know about the cadmium yellow deep hue. I think it might be a little bit too bright. You know what? Let's use both of them. And then for the green, we're going to be using Hooker's Green Dark. So let's start off with painting the base. So for the base, I'm going to use this. This is me painting on a whim, guys. So when I say sit down, paint for you, just go with the flow and clear your mind and paint without feeling like, oh, what if I mess up? Remember, it's just a piece of paper. You can always try again, but this is how you learn. This is how you grow. This is how you become more confident and find your own painting style as well. So here we go. It's a watered down mixture of the yellow ochre, and I'm going to paint in my shape first. So the shape that I want to do, I'm going to tilt it sideways just so that the shadow is not directly over. I'm going to do a longish sort of squash like this. And the beauty of painting freestyle like this is you can just have fun and paint outside the lines without having to follow a picture or something that looks super realistic. So mine has a little bit of a curve, but watch how I'm able to kind of turn and build up on the structure of it. So narrow at the top and then thick at the bottom. And what I did was just take a little bit of extra color and I added it to the areas at the top to get a darker blend there. And then I'm going to add a little bit around here as well. And this is what gives us those nice variations in tonal hue. Look how pretty that is. So you start off light and then you add your darker colors in those areas. I'm going to dab more at the top. Perfect. So now, once this is done, let's get some of our, actually, you know, I know I said we will use Hooker's Dark Green, but I want to use olive green instead. This is also part of going with the flow, guys. So getting some of my olive green, and I'm continuing to use my number 4. I'm going to throw in some color, sweeping it in like this. Now, this is wet on wet, and this is why you're getting those beautiful blooms of color happening in there. So it's integral that your area, your surface is still damp when you do this step. Look how by adding those little strokes, I'm getting those fine lines, almost kind of adding texture through pattern within this. Now you can allow this to dry just a little bit before you go in and add actual strokes of green in it, and then that will hold because it's dried. So that would be more of a wet on dry. Now for the little stump at the top, what is the right word for that? Is it the word twig is coming to mind. It's not a twig. The extension at the top. Someone help me in the comments. What's it called? Okay, I'm using Van Dyke Brown for the top. And I could actually use the number 3 just to get more precise thicknesses or thins. But if you are confident in your brush pressure, brush control, go ahead and use this. I could also wait for this to dry up completely, because if I go in with this brown right now, it's going to blend in. But you know what? I like to throw caution to the wind. So I'm turning it downward just so that the shadow is not on top. And I'm lightly going to start here and extend. Very simple, guys. We're not trying to go super detailed. We're just trying to give an indication that the little stump bit of that is over there. Now you'll see a little bit of blending happening there. What do? Just take your brush, make sure it's damp and it's clean, and then you can just lightly brush it off. And that takes away that right away. I'm trying to look for my paper towel and I'm not seeing any yet again. Oh well, let's move on. So that's what you do to get it away. Just make sure the area is still damp when you're doing that, and you should be fine. So let's wait for this to dry. Let's move on to our second squash. For the second one, let's make it more of a white. Actually, let's make it more of a orange, and then we'll do the white or a lighter version of it at the very bottom. So for this one, I think I'm going to use the cadmium orange hue. So this is your typical pumpkin. Today is Halloween as well, so why not? So mixing some of that off to the side. And I've mixed it in with my my yellow ochre. I didn't end up using the cadmium yellow. That's okay. All right, so number 4 again. We're gonna start off. I love my little comma strokes for my roses and also for these guys here. So we're gonna start off with something like that. And you know what? Let's give it a little bit of movement. So I'm gonna kind of tilt this dude a little bit off to the side. So let's start off like this. Okay. Dipping my brush in water, I'm going to create another one. And give your squash like some really cute whimsical shapes, organic shapes, because why not? I remember one of the first videos I had done for squash or pumpkin, and someone actually said, oh, it looks like garlic. And so And second thought, when I looked at it again, I was like, oh my gosh, you're absolutely right. It kind of does look like garlic. So try and give it some beautiful shape and make it not look like only garlic. Like allow your brain to see more than just garlic. So I did the little ridges, and I didn't quite explain too much here because I've done so many of these videos with you guys. And plus there's so many beautiful other artistic renditions from other artists of how to do a pumpkin online. So, I didn't go into super detail here. Okay, so I did my little ridges. Notice the white space. Now, to get more detailing happening, I always like to use a second color. And while it is damp, of course. So let's use the red light, or light red. This is what it's called for the Daleroni set of watercolors. So mixing that on here directly from my color cake. And I'm going to drop that in right where the ridges are. Now you'll notice these areas right here, it's immediately blending in. Some of them it's holding, and that's mainly because of the amount of dampness these areas have. So this is clearly a lot damper. This is dried up a little bit, so that's why it's holding on to that color. This kind of bloomed in immediately. And I'm just adding light strokes to kind of indicate the lower portion that should be darker than the rest. Adding some at the top. I tried with the shape, y'all, but you know what? I'm also trying to make room over here for our third guy. So I didn't want it to be too crowded. But you can do some beautiful shapes and get some really interesting results. So now by adding the second color, watch how we suddenly have shadow areas, which is fabulous. I'm adding a little bit of dark tone on the back ridges, and this is mainly to indicate shadow in the back, and this kind of pulls forward the light orange that we have. Also adding some of that to the base, because now then this gives us a shadowy area at the bottom. So you can paint loose and still get those beautiful effects without having to go super detailed. Dropping in a couple of loose strokes within it just to kind of give that nice light shadow effect. And I think that's all we really need. We can continue on and create the little stump at the top. And I like to make these orange pumpkin stumps a little more whimsical, so I'll give it a little bit of a twirl. So this time I'm going to use my number 3 because it's nice and fine and beautiful. And we'll use the we're going to continue using the Van Dyke brown because I think it's a nice dark brown for this. Now, remember what I said in the beginning of this video. If you add this in while the area is still damp, you can 100% expect the color to be blooming in because the area is still damp where you're painting. If you wait for it to dry and then paint, you will not get that effect. So depending on what you like, pick, either wait or do it right away. I like to do it right away. So here we go. Let's make this whimsical twirling. And now we build up on that. So getting more color. I'm thickening it. And I really like how it's like blending into the stuff below. Let's give it a little bit of a additional twirl. Beautiful. And like I mentioned in the first one here, if you don't like how it's spreading, and the longer you wait, you'll notice it spreads a lot more. You can just take a clean damp brush, and just lightly push the color up, or just swipe it off and wipe it on your paper towel, and you should be good. Okay, so we've got 2. We're going to get back to this guy to add more texture on him. But let's move on to our third and leave this for the absolute last. So the third one, let's make it, I'm so tempted to do a pink one, but I think we'll just keep it traditional unless you guys tell me otherwise in the comments. So let me know. I'm just going to look at the comments real quick. Thanks, Munira. Can you draw a spooky? I don't know. Today's session is more about the squash. Yeah, that's why I'm doing the squash. Let me see if I have time, because this is supposed to be like a 15-minute painting for you guys if you sit down to just paint this by yourself. Okay, so we're going to start with, anyone said, oh, butternut. Okay, so green. Let's do green. So we're going to use the Hooker's Green Dark. And I'm going to use my number 4. And mixing this in onto the side here. Now you could also do the same technique with the butternut squash as we did here, where you're starting with a light base. And then, well, technically this is what we did for this one as well, just a brighter color. So butternut squash, let's make it more of an oval long shape. Again, feel free to do the shapes that you feel work best. Notice this white space here in my stroke. That's because my brush didn't have enough water. So you're gonna, if you're new to watercolor, this is something you will learn as you kind of use the medium more. So there's one. I'm gonna keep this simple and have just 3 ridges for this. And then here's another one. And I'm trying to leave a little bit of white space-ish happening. But because we're being loose, I don't want you to sit there and actually draw things in. I want you to be looser with your strokes. So don't stress too much about it. It comes with practice and intentionality. When you sit there and you intentionally want to create those white spaces, so you're being mindful with how you lay your strokes down, it'll come. Don't stress the small stuff. Okay, so that's good enough. And we're going to do the same thing that we did for what we like the above, except this time what I want to do is add a little bit of that yellow ochre into this green. So I'm getting some yellow ochre directly from here, and I'm going to drop that in here along the ridges. Oh, I lost my white space over there, and that'll happen, and that's totally okay. Don't stress, don't fret. It's all good. Now, blending of these colors happening gives it more of that loose gradient sort of effect. And this is where you can actually go in with yet another color if you want to, because if you look at butternut squash, it's got those nice textures in it. I'm going to go in with a darker green at this point because I want that smooth blend happening. So I'm getting some of that Hooker's dark green, and then I'm getting some of my Van Dyke brown. And that gives me a nice dark green. And so starting off with strokes at the bottom and a little bit at the top, giving it some nice, what's the word I'm looking for? Shadow effects. And then dropping some just at the tip over there, so it kind of can submerge in the back. And depending, like I mentioned earlier, depending on how damp your area is, you're going to get it bleeding in right away, or you can get it solid. So right now mine is like really blending in a lot. And if you don't like how things are blending, exactly like how you can wipe off color, just take your clean brush and help it blend in. Okay, So that's that. Let's wait for this to dry a little bit before we add any more texture on it. I'm going to do the stump and then we're going to quickly hop back up to the first one. So for the stump on this one, I think it would be nice to use more of the yellow ochre, just have it be a tad bit different. And I'm mixing it in with some of the leftover brown that I have on the side here. And I'm throwing caution to the wind. I'm not waiting for this to dry. I'm going to just create a cute little stump. Now it's blending in with the green a lot, and we have that yellow ochre here already. So it's looking a little bit too uniform, but we'll work on that. And my suggestion is to just drop in a little bit of the Van Dyke brown in there. Okay, so we allow that to dry, and I'm going to go up to this guy here, and we're going to give him some texture. So green is what I had in mind for that. So we've got some of the dark hookers green. And instead of using my number 4, let me switch to my number 3 so I can get some nicer, finer details happening here. So using my number 3, getting some of the hooker's green, nice fine pointed tips. So make sure you've got just the right amount of color on here. It's not full of water. I'm going to tilt this sideways so you can see better. I'm going to start from the top, and I'm going to lightly graze and bring it all the way down to the bottom. Now I'm getting some blending happening. I don't mind it. If you do, I would suggest you wait for your area to dry completely before you paint these in. And notice how when I'm painting these in, I'm kind of going along with the shape of the squash. And then last but not least, I'm going to get a little bit more of this color. Blend it in with some of the brown. And then we're just going to give it some dots. And that's our first squash. So that's dried up. This one's pretty much okay. If you wanted to highlight a little bit more on the stump, you could. Let's go on this one. This one is still a little bit damp, but I think we can, you know what? I want to introduce and spice up our session with some metallics. So if I can find some metallics around me here, we're going to be throwing in some metallics right into this guy right here. Metallic watercolor does exist. It is beautiful if you have a brand that works really well, because there's different variations of metallics that you can get. I'm trying to look for my stash over here and I'm not able to find it. So instead, I'm going to use a little bit of what I have here, which is, this is not watercolor, this is acrylic, and it is the Daler-Rowney liquid acrylic in white pearl. But I'm almost thinking like white pearl doesn't work for this guy over here. But you know what? I always tell you guys, let's experiment and try new things. So let this be something where we experiment. This could turn out to be really good, or it could turn out to look like not a butter squash at all. So I'm getting just a little bit of that onto the palette here. And the way to activate these guys is you can use water to water it down a bit. So taking my clean, damp number 3, I'm just going to quickly mix it up onto this palette here. And this is sort of kind of dry-ish. Fine pointed tip, we're just going to add little tiny dots along over here. I'm probably going to have to like lift this up for you guys to see the texture that it is adding. I'm just adding a little bit of texture onto this here. I think personally, I think gold would be way better. This just looks okay. But you know what? Maybe this session could be like watching me do something and it not looking as great, and then giving you the encouragement that, hey, we should be trying things as well, because there's no harm in trying something and then realizing it doesn't work, or maybe it does work and you really like it. I don't know. What do you guys think? I mean, I think it's just okay. It doesn't like stand out as much. I'll wait for you to comment a little bit before checking the comments. I'm going to get a little bit more of the darker tone. I just want to add some more detailing within. Oh yeah, and then we said we would tackle the little stump at the top, just to make sure everything is okay. Okay, so getting some of the darker tone, just dropping that in. I don't think it's going to do too much, but yeah, I think that's okay. All right, so last but not least, this is how we're going to be wrapping things up, is doing a little bit of a splatter. I love to do a splatter. I think it just adds something so whimsical and fun to the whole painting. So we're going to get the leftover color that we have on the side here. And I'm making sure that I've got lots of water on my brush. And that is mainly so that when I do this, there's actually color that falls out of the brush, giving me a splatter. And if you want to keep things a little bit more interesting, or make things a little bit more interesting, get some of that yellow on your brush this time and get a different color for a splatter. You could also do the splatter in your metallics. I think that would also be lovely. Get larger splatter like that by just getting more water on your brush. And there we go. Okay, so once again, now that it's had a chance to dry up just a little bit, this is what it looks like. If you're new to watercolor, just remember, watercolor dries up a lot lighter. So if things look super dark right now, I'm going to post a picture on my community feed. So feel free to follow and you can check out to see how it dries up there. And yeah, this is our mini session, 15 minutes for you to sit down and paint and relax. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, all that good stuff. And let me know if you had any questions at all. I am happy to answer. I'm going to quickly take a look at comments to see what's going on. Oh, I love it. People are planning to paint together. Good for you guys. Go ahead and paint. Okay, perfect. Excellent. Thanks, guys, for watching. And that is it for today. I am likely doing another one another live next week. So stay tuned for that. It should show up on my feed sometime today or this week. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll chat soon. Bye.